Hello, amazing hackers. Hope you're all doing well today. So, welcome back to the channel. You guys know that I like to bring on special guests, and today I brought somebody really special. I'm gonna let him introduce himself. Please take the floor, my man.
Thank you very much. My name's Dave Mallow, known as Death's Pirate Online. I'm the head of research and community at Shinobi Security, which is an AI, agentic AI based web and API penetration testing platform. My background is in pen testing and red teaming, reverse engineering, exploit development. I've been in the industry for around 14 years, but been a hacker since early 90s. But yeah, that's me.
Early 90s, that's when I was born. So, you've been hacking as long as I've been old. Jesus Christ, you don't look a day over 25, my man. It's really
I
good. Like,
appreciate that.
it's awesome. So, like, can you tell the lovely rats of the channel a little bit about, like, how did we meet? Because you something special came into my inbox, right out of nowhere. Like,
Yeah, that's right. So obviously building a platform and it's all well and good us doing our own benchmarking and testing on the platform, but we really want to know how well Shinobi handles real world kind of situations. So I'm always looking for exams or other benchmarks that we haven't developed to put Shinobi through its paces. So when I saw that you'd released the CAPIE exam, for me that was ideal because for one, it's fairly recent, so I know it's not going to be in the LLM training data, which is important. I know that Shinobi can't have seen any write-ups or got any indication on how to approach that exam, so that was key. And two, it's from what I could see, it was a fully fledged expert API hacker exam, and I wanted to know how Shinobi would fare on that exam. So I messaged you on LinkedIn and said, "Hey, might seem a bit weird, but can our AI take your exam?" And thankfully, you were welcoming of it. So
very
that's how we
open
met.
to it. I'm a big lover of AI, as you guys probably know, and it's not just in this context; it's in all contexts. I just love AI. AI played a big part in CAPIE as well. Not like you guys think. I'm just gonna throw a prompt in there and I'm just gonna put something out. No, it doesn't work that way. You you get out what you put in. So we put a lot of effort into Cappy. We took several months to develop it based on our previous API training that we've done, based on our previous API experience that we've built up because we've written articles on the OWASP top 10. And when I say we, I often say we, but I mean myself. It's in the OWASP top 10 2029, 2023. I've written articles on that on each of the separate topics, so I'm pretty well familiar with OWASP. I love them. They're an industry standard. Everybody recognizes them. And it's also there that I've basically built my exams on. It's a very slow starting certificate, so basically, if you don't know, I don't care about the money for the copy stuff. I've built this to be something which everybody can attain. I've built it to be an entry level exam, not really in the way that you think, because the exploits are really advanced. We'll see that later, but we just start you slow. What's an API, REST versus SOAP, the tools, then the different OWASP top 10 pieces, and we put some practice exams in there as well. And for full context, I kind of did Dave dirty there because I didn't give him that practice exam. I never told him about the practice exam. And I need to mention this very clearly. This has been a normal paid for exam. There is no exemptions where I was like, please do my exam for free. No, we went through the normal route. And in the normal route, I'm going to introduce it to you guys like I introduce it in my copy exams. Hello, amazing hacker. Welcome to my gulag. Today, I want you to do a pen test for me. I like theme parks. I really like theme parks. I always have annual passes to everything, and I've built an application for playing a theme park game. Basically, the front end I don't care about too much yet. We can ask Codex to make a nice little front end, but we're working on the back end and we want you to secure it. We don't give out API documentation, we are very stingy on that because we want to keep our secrets. There hasn't been something like this built before. A roller coaster tycoon game, can you imagine if that would leak? Incredible. So, what we want you to do is first of all sign this NDA. Shinobi signed our nice NDA, and then we want you to have the exam. Here is the code. That's the front end code that we've written. Have fun. You have 4 hours, same rules as everyone. And can you tell us a little bit about how that exam went, maybe?
Yeah, sure. So it was very interesting. So it wasn't the run of the mill kind of here's all the API docs, like you said. It was here's a Python application which calls some backend APIs. Away you go. So I was a bit nervous. That's obviously when we did the exam. That's the first time I realised that that's how it was going to play out. So we had to basically trust that Shinobi would be capable enough of handling that Python file, which thankfully it was. So it was quite interesting. We did have the file in a Google Drive, so we gave Shinobi the link to the Google Drive as part of the scoping notes. But Shinobi wanted to trust but verify. So Shinobi didn't want to rely on the documentation that we had given it. It was suggesting that it didn't know if the documentation was up to date, and it would rather do its own enumeration and figure out what it could to start with before referring to that documentation, which was something I'd not seen it do before. But yeah, so it did its enumeration. It found two endpoints through that. One was the login, and the other one was the register. And it came back and said, based on what I'm supposed to be doing, I don't think that this attack surface is big enough. Can you give me any more information? At that point, we gave Shinobi that Python file, and it ripped through it, found all the API endpoints, and off it went. And at that point, we started to see the findings popping into the live findings table as they came across. And then as it got closer and closer to being able to complete the exam, it got more and more exciting. So it was quite entertaining to watch.
Yeah, like every time you guys found an exploit, you guys asked me, how much was it? 7 out of 10 again, right? 7 out of 10, right? Higher or medium, right? Like, no, higher critical, 7 out of 10 higher critical. And we saw, like, you showed me a little bit of the back end as well, or not the back end, but like Shinobi doing its thing. And indeed, we saw these things come in. Maybe we can go over some of the findings. I think that would be interesting. I'm
Yeah,
opening up my
sure.
exam here, guys. I don't really care about that. Like, this is not gonna be in the exam rotation anymore. Obviously, but let's look a little bit at what this little stubborn thing found because I was so surprised.
So what we're looking at here is Shinobi's dashboard for the exam. Obviously, we keep all of the traces from that exam. It's designed to be an enterprise pen testing tool. So the first thing that we're looking at is the dashboard from the exam. So let me just pull my screen up. So you can see from here that we've got the severities and what findings were found. We've just run this once on the exam, as you know, but Shinobi's designed to be a continuous pen testing tool. So as you would run more tests, you may find more findings because of the stochastic nature of the AI, but you'd be able to see those changes over time. So if we go into the findings, then from the exam, you'll see that there was a good mix of both kind of regular security-based vulnerabilities and issues, as well as the more business logic type issues. And that's something that Shinobi really excels at. I think there's a common misconception that AI is not good at doing business logic. But the way that Shinobi's been built and engineered is Shinobi actually excels at doing the business logic and also chain vulnerabilities.
So
So
strange how
it's
that
not,
works, right? Like we say, indeed,
yeah,
like you can't teach a computer logic, but it's starting to look like you can.
yeah. Well, I mean, it's so Shinobi was developed by AI engineers and pen testers. It's not like a ChatGPT wrapper or some small application. It's a fully fledged penetration testing system that has been built by people that know what they're doing. So Shinobi builds up a context of what it's testing and because of the way it's been designed, it's able to contextualize what it's looking at and where these issues might be. And because of that, we get this high success rate with those kind of business logic errors. So we see a lot of really interesting findings coming out of Shinobi.
Yeah, and like very worth to mention as well that this thing literally did it in half the time a human would take. All my human testers took 4 hours. Shinobi took two. And that's just for doing the thing. The report writing was pretty much instant. Like snap, there was a report. Crazy how that went.
Yeah, that's another good point. So normally when you're scoping out your pen test for a customer, you would typically have a number of days testing and then like half a day's reporting, and that reporting time's just mitigated with Shinobi because it's building out that report on the fly. And it's a full pen test report. I'll show you one of those after we've been through the findings, but it is a full pen test report that's been completely written by the AI. And so for me, like I have ADD, so I don't like report writing because I end up procrastinating. I'm never happy with descriptions about how I've written something. So to have AI just take that off my plate and give me a professional report at the end is just a massive win. It's worth it just for that. But should we dig into some of these findings?
Yeah, just for my curiosity, I'm curious in the audience if there's somebody who does like report writing. Put that in the comments below.
So for each of the findings, you'll get a full breakdown of what that issue was. So everything from the description, the severity, where it was found in the application, all the implications, all the remediations, and then the full exploit code to replicate that finding. So exactly how you get it in a normal pen test. But what we can see from Shinobi is we can actually view the test traces for how Shinobi went about achieving this aim. So Shinobi was given a mission objective, and Shinobi generates these missions for itself. So after it's done its enumeration phase, it will go through a threat modeling phase, and then from that it will generate these attack scenarios that it wants to try and achieve.
Yeah.
Then basically we've got two personas that are kind of displayed to the user or bubbled up to the user. And this red guy is the pen tester and the blue one is the pen test manager. And they basically work together to try and solve whatever objective they've been given. So in this case, it was broken object property level authorization. So the pen tester will come up with a hypothesis of how it wants to do that, and then the pen test manager will discuss it with him, and then they'll go through trying to actually attack that. And you see all this live in real time. You can jump in, you can stop these, you can give the testers more information if they need it, but generally they're quite happy working on their own. And then if they either achieve the aim, they'll raise a finding, or they'll just keep going until they've exhausted all the ways that they think that vulnerability may exist. So it was interesting to see these. It was interesting to see how Shinobi was approaching this during the exam, but the level of findings that was coming out was just incredible. So
Yeah, and like one thing to very clearly state here is that consistency that I've just shown is really important in the sense that, for example, Shinobi is always gonna add the headers that I ask it to add. In a pen test, that's one of my biggest worries is that the testers that I'm working with are consistent. I don't have to take that worry at the moment anymore. But let's be also very open here. This thing is not here to replace humans, right? That's not how it works.
absolutely. So Shinobi was built as a force multiplier for pen test teams or security teams. So it still has to have that human there to kind of look at the attacks that Shinobi wants to do. Shinobi will get into situations where it needs more information from the tester, so it will pause the application, email the test coordinator and say, hey, look, we need some more information, and then gives you a link to come back into the platform to give it what it's asking for. But yeah, it's absolutely not replacing testers. It's there to allow testers to do more. And the other thing that we've noticed with Shinobi is that the junior testers, when they're working with Shinobi, can actually learn on the job, which is incredible in itself. So for a junior tester, if Shinobi starts to do a scenario that the junior tester hasn't seen before, they can see exactly how Shinobi is going to work, because everything that Shinobi does, all the input, all the output, all of the thought processes are highlighted to or available to the users. So it's great to learn from how Shinobi is approaching something and how Shinobi got to a finding just by looking through the traces.
Yeah, like I said that my team needs to be consistent, but I have a confession to make. I'm not the most consistent person ever myself.
No, neither am I. But knowing knowing that Shinobi is going to be that consistent, and
Yeah.
Shinobi doesn't have a bad day. It doesn't, it doesn't start the day not having enough coffee and things like that. It's ready to go all the time, and it will constantly go through everything that it needs to go through. And the other, like I said, the other benefit of having a stochastic kind of process in that AI is that every time you run Shinobi, it's going to take a different path to thinking. So it's like almost getting a different penetration tester to come in and run the same test. So the coverage that you'll get from that continuous testing is quite valuable too.
Yeah.
I pulled up this finding because this was a really interesting one, and I kind of want to go through this. So this finding that Shinobi came up with, if we read the description, like, this amazed me. So the bicoaster endpoint processes financial transactions without requiring authentication tokens, allowing unauthenticated users to make purchases that directly impact the park finances. So we've got this unauthenticated way to manipulate those finances, which is fine. I mean, that would be a nice finding on its own, but then Shinobi tacks on the end that it's figured out there's no rate limiting on this on this particular issue either. So it's further impacted by the fact that there was no rate limiting. So an attacker could quickly saturate or drain some park finances by abusing this flow. So these are the types of things that Shinobi adds on to really show impact for these findings. And the other thing is that you'll rarely find a false positive from Shinobi because we have this whole validation chain. So those findings have gone through a thorough check, and I think our false positive rate is around 1 in 100 or 2 in 150. I think it's 1 in 100 now.
Incredible.
But yeah, I mean, what's your thoughts on seeing something like this from an automated test?
I kind of cried because it was my whole intention to avoid these kinds of things. That AI was supposed to not be able to take my exam, not per se AI, but robots in general. Because if, like you said, this is all business logic related. These bots need to have very big context. Even the first finding, if you'll go back for a moment, please, there was a finding about SQL injection. This hasn't been found by other scanners out there, and we'll get more into that later. But why is that? Because the bot needs to log in, the bot needs to register, the bot needs to go discover these endpoints, which is something that's already like a chain, sort of, because I never gave you guys credentials, right? I never told it log in with this or.
That's right. Yeah, and we can see that from so this setting screen is basically the scope that we gave to Shinobi. So all Shinobi had was the endpoint for where those APIs were located, a brief description of what it was testing. We gave it no API spec. We gave it the notes, as I said before, in the Google Drive, no credentials, and that was it. So that's all Shinobi really needs to start to. Oh, the only thing it needs is just the endpoint that's in scope. It can contextualize everything else on its own, but we give it these things just to nudge it along the right direction and to give it that bit of a helping hand. But all Shinobi really needs is just the endpoints that are in scope for the test. And it's also worth noting that there is a kind of guardrail system in place to make sure that Shinobi always stays in scope and stops any testers or any of the pen testers going out of scope for what's valid. So
That's amazing. Like I
but
can
yeah, that
see a lot
SQL one
here.
was interesting too.
Yeah, and like in the list in general, you can see a lot of things that are like not this one. Sorry, the list of the findings. I mean, you can very clearly see that the things which have been found here, either we're talking about complete unauthenticated flows between. There's a lot of stuff in here. You have to notice that the theme parks that you build are for yourself. That's the kind of context I want my CAPIE students to be able to infer from what I give them. And my CAPIE student was a star. Who knew?
Yeah, and Shinobi goes like in depth on what it's testing. So like parameter level understanding of what it's looking at.
Yeah,
And it's that's quite important for being able to contextualize and find some of these issues as well.
and it's like the I never asked it to do like the lows or anything or the informationals, but all this together after just 2.5 hours, this makes for a magnificent report with seven high or critical exploits that were found. I'm just amazed at this stuff, but you've been able to do better, right? You've been able to one up this with one of the labs that I've built recently called Ratmania, which is built to be like a real web shop, which you find in a bug bounty situation. A bug bounty situation, ladies and gentlemen. Do you know how crazy that is?
And I think was it on the Ratmania? No, was it on the Ratmania shop that we found issues that
Yeah,
you
that I
hadn't
didn't
put in there?
expect.
Yeah.
Yeah, indeed. It's crazy. I'm happy for that. I basically got you guys to do a free pen test as well because I told you, hey, here's a lab, but that was a production thing. And the idea is of course not to run Shinobi on production, right? You're not gonna say do a production pen test or anything.
Yeah, we don't. Obviously, it can be run in production, but you just need to spend a bit more effort keeping your eye on what Shinobi's doing. But obviously, we would rather have it running like a QA or dev kind of situation. But yeah, we have had customers that run it in production once they're comfortable with how Shinobi's working and how it's operating and how Shinobi works with their particular sites. So
Yeah, like if you
uh,
give it enough cost. Sorry, go ahead, Dave.
yeah, this was the report from that
Thank you
Ratmania
for
shop.
pulling
So I
that
wanted
up.
to
Yeah.
yeah, so I wanted to show a quick demonstration of the report. So this was all written by AI. So we have like full table of contents,
In minutes,
the
right?
exact in minutes. Yeah, the full executive summary. Then this is contextualized to the application as well as the issues that were found. The summary of findings, that's normal as you'd expect. But what we have also in our reports is this kind of application description, and in this is all of the kind of contextualization that Shinobi was able to build up around that application. So, what the purpose of the site is, what roles and users it came across, how that authentication's handled, key features of the shop and the application architecture and things like that, and then normal workflows and processes that it was able to distinguish within that site. So you get a very good understanding of the coverage that Shinobi has actually done on that test just by reading the report. We then have the findings, and this is, as you saw from the findings, it's everything that you would kind of expect. But if I don't mind saying so myself, that these are extremely well written. All of
Absolutely.
the steps to reproduce are fantastic. You get all the screenshots, all the code output, any exploits that it wrote for that, and then we've also got at the end of the report, which is something that I don't see quite a lot, is all of the missions that we did. So this is all of the missions and whether or not there was a bug found for that particular mission. So for your customers or for your teams, you get a full understanding of what Shinobi has tested. So even if this was a clean report and there were no issues found, you have confidence of what those types of tests have been done against that application, which I think is quite valuable.
Yeah, and also like normal, I'll call it normal, but a normal report that was generated, I expect findings in. I don't expect these types of steps to reproduce where it's written like a human would write it, but more consistent, and you don't have to muck about with getting all kinds of reports that don't fit within your template and you have to rewrite it. It's a lot of effort taken away. And I can say, as somebody who has QA certificates, I am ISTQB and Technical Test Analyst certified. These are well written reports. They have everything I'd like to have in them, full steps to reproduce as a human would have to reproduce them, not like a machine found them.
And obviously, the other benefit of having those findings in the platform is if you do fix those issues, retesting them is just a one-click. Shinobi has the context of what that issue was, where it was found, and it can then start retesting it and validating whether or not that fix has been uh, done properly.
And does it find as if this would pop up in regression as well? Because we all know that happens in production, right?
Yeah, so every time something's tested, Shinobi is going to do a full coverage. What you can do is change the severities of these findings or mark them as accepted and false positive, and that's the only time it will use that for future testing. Like if you've marked it as, yeah, we know about this, or it's a false positive, Shinobi will take that into consideration when it's going through that validation process the next time.
What you're basically telling me is that that false positive button is collecting dust off, and uh, I've
Yeah,
seen that.
hopefully.
I've
Like
seen
I said,
that.
one in 100, like, but yeah.
Like, and I need to compare this as well because I thought about maybe starting a burp suite scan, seeing what that would bring. And ladies and gentlemen, you're seeing the screenshot in front of you right now. You can see how much it found. I sent this immediately over. We gave this thing more context than the CAPIE exam. I needed to give it like full context because otherwise it wouldn't find anything. At least it found unencrypted communications. No, but that's a joke, of course. But it is true. I did feed this a lot more than I would have fed Shinobi. So after all of this, with all of the things that you've shown me, I couldn't help myself but to give you guys the beautiful certificate that you see on screen right now. And it's available in our certificate portal. Everybody can go there, search.thexssrat.com/pdf/1. Amazing. Really amazing. Well done. Congratulations to you and the whole team, man. That's an awesome
Yeah,
achievement.
thanks very much. And the team are very excited for the outcome of that. As I said, like we went in blind. It was
And
not what we were expecting in terms of having that Python application, but yeah, Shinobi just ate that up, and it was quite an exciting moment watching those findings pop up.
And you, after the exam, you asked me what would Shinobi still have to have found for this to be 10. And I'm pretty sure that if we would have just let this run the full hours, this thing could have come back with 14 things where I would have expected 10. Incredible. Incredible. Thank you so much, Dave, for joining me today. I really appreciate it. You've been awesome.
Appreciate it too, and thanks for letting us sit the exam, or thanks for letting Shinobi sit the exam.
My pleasure. If it ever wants another certificate, CMWPP is available. But I'm just
Oh, we'll be
saying it.
back.
I'm
We'll
going
be
to
back.
brutally torture it. I'm not giving it any advantages. Thank
All
you
right,
so
man.
much.
Thank you.